Hi, and welcome to Math Movies with Ms. Feuer-Beck and Ms. Veluti. Today, you will be learning how to multiply decimals by a whole number using the strategy of estimation and reasoning. First, we want to remember two things. The first thing is, we want to remember that multiplication means groups of. Today, our strategy is going to be to multiply like they are whole numbers, and then we're going to use estimation and reason how big the answer should be to put the decimal point where it makes the answer the right size. So here's our first problem. 6/10 times 24. So this is really the same as 6/10 of a group of 24. So one thing I could do is I could think to myself that this is kind of like 6/10 is close to 1/2. So if I think about that, then half of 24 equals 12. So I'm guessing that my answer is going to be near 12. And that's making me think that it will be 14 4/10. Another way that I can do this is now I can actually solve the problem. But instead of thinking of them as 6/10 times 24, I'm going to think of them as whole numbers. So I'm going to think of the problem as 6 times 24. So if I do that, then 24 times 6 would be 20 times 6 is 120, and 4 times 6 is 24. So that means that 24 times 6 is 144. Now, in the original problem, the problem was 6/10 times 24. So if the original problem is 6/10 times 24, then 144 doesn't really make sense because this number, 6/10, is less than a whole. So even if that was 1, I still would have 1 times 24, which is 24. So I need to reason where should the decimal point go. It could go here, it could go here, or it could also go here. And if I think about what we said at the beginning, that 6/10 was close to 1/2, and that half of 24 is 12, then it makes the most sense that the answer would be 14 4/10. Let's try another. 9 times 3 1/2. So this is like 9 groups of 3 1/2. So the first thing I'm going to think about is this. Because I have 3 choices, I'm thinking, okay, if I had 9 times 3, that would be 27. And if I had 9 times 4, that would be 36. So that's making me think that my answer is somewhere in between 27 and 36 because 3 1/2 is between 3 and 4. So I'm leaning towards, of my choices, I'm leaning towards 31 5/10. What I'm going to do is solve the problem thinking about this as whole numbers. So instead of thinking of it as 9 times 3 1/2, I'm going to think of the problem as 9 times 35. So 35 times 9. I'm going to use the traditional algorithm. 5 times 9 is 45, and 3 times 9 is 27, plus 4 is 31. And now I need to reason, where should the decimal point go? Should it go here and the answer be 315? I don't think so, because my original problem was 3 1/2 times 9. And so if I have 9 times 3 is 27 and 9 times 4 is 36, this number is too big. And I could have the decimal point go here and be 31 1/2. Well, that fits what we said up there, so I'm thinking that that is probably it. I'm just going to check the last choice. Or the decimal point could go in between the 3 and the 1 and be 3 15/100. Now this seems way too small because I'm multiplying 9 by a number that's also greater than a whole. So 9 times 3.5, that's more than a whole. So I have to have an answer that's more than 9, because 9 times 1 would be 9. So this answer is not correct. So the best choice is 31 and 5/10. Now let's try some story problems. Annie ran 4.2 miles a day for 1 week, 7 days. How many total miles did she run that week? Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make an equation for this problem. And my equation is going to be she's running 4.2 miles a day every day for 1 week. So that means she's doing 7 groups of 4 2/10 of a mile. Okay, so my strategy is that I'm going to think of this as whole numbers, and then I'm going to reason where the decimal point should be. So I'm going to think of this as 7 times 42, and I'm going to solve that. 42 times 7. 2 times 7 is 14. 4 times 7 is 28, plus 1 is 29. Okay, so my answer is this. But now I have to remember that I had a decimal point. So it wasn't 7 times 42, it was 7 times 4 2/10. So now I need to reason where the decimal point should go. So these are some of my options. I could have it be 294 thousandths. It could be 2 94 hundredths. It could be 29 4/10, or it could be 294. Now when I think about these choices, the one that makes the most sense to me is 29 4/10, because 7 times 4 equals 28, and 4.2 is very close to 4. So I'm thinking that this is the best choice. So I'm going to make my answer 29 4/10 miles. Let's try another one. John feeds his cat 8/10 of a cup of cat food each morning. How many cups of cat food does John's cat eat in 32 days? So my equation is going to be, I have 32 groups of 8/10, because every day he's getting 8/10 cups of cat food, and it's for 32 days. So again, I'm going to think of this problem as whole numbers, and I'm going to multiply 32 times 8. So 32 times 8. Well, 30 times 8 is 240, and 2 times 8 is 16. So that means I have 256. Now, I have to think about where the decimal point should go. If I put the decimal point here, it means I have 256 thousandths total. That doesn't seem to really make sense to me, because 8/10 is close to a whole. So 32 times a whole would be 32. So I think I need an answer that's bigger than that. So I'm going to move the decimal point. Because I said that it's going to be close to, I'm imagining that it's going to be close to, this is close to 1. So 32 times 1 equals 32. So that is making me think that the decimal point also doesn't go there and make it 2 56 hundredths, because that would be too small. And I don't think the decimal point would be here and make it 256, because that would be much too big. So that means that the decimal point must be 25 6/10. Cups of cat food.